Welcome back, everyone, to the Writer's Parachute, where we are guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. Today, we have with us a very special guest. It is Andrea Olatunji, and we're going to be talking to her about her two children's books, Omar the Jaguar and Vilero, the Armadillo. And I know I'm mispronouncing that, but I'm trying. I'm working on it. But of course, we want to get to our topic of the week first. And I have an extra little special announcement for you guys. We have added Buy Me a Coffee to the Writer's Parachute. The Writer's Parachute is a weekly writing podcast for anyone who struggles with writing, publishing, and marketing their books. And you can now buy me a coffee or tea or a lovely glass of wine, which I probably won't drink, or a root beer float. There's no need to limit the beverage choices. Isn't life stressful enough? We need to just keep going on. But whatever you buy, I thank you for it. Your support helps cover the cost to produce these episodes that we have for you every week. They're paid for the hosting services, for upgrade the occasional bit of equipment that we use because we are working it hard, and to keep the episodes as free of ads as we can. Now, I know you guys are seeing some ads, and we're trying to produce some revenue to offset the cost of that, but we're trying to keep those down to a minimum. So your support would be very helpful. We want to thank you as a marvelous supporter. I think you're amazing. And keep your eye out for the monthly surprises that we're going to be listing on the website, thewritersparachute.com. We'll have those coming up, maybe a few giveaways, some extra episodes, and you never know what we're going to come up with. And of course, we just got the announcement today that on YouTube, we have reached 20,000 views. So thank you all. So let's get on with our episode where I'm speechless. You guys are about to make me cry. So let me get on to it. So this week's topic, we're going to talk about social media. I have spent a good portion of this week helping authors and writers with their social media. And I get kind of the same reaction from a lot of them that they're just a little too scared to trip into the social media realm. And I'm going to tell you, it's not really all that scary, especially if you think of it as what the main purpose is for a writer. It's a tool. It's a tool that we use to get information out to our audience. So if you continue to use these tools, these free tools given to you for free advertising, as a tool to get that information out, then it shouldn't be as scary. Now, a lot of people will follow that up and they're like, well, I just never know what to post. Well, as an author and writer, you have a plethora of information that you can give to your audience. Andrea and I were talking about that in the green room just before the show. It's like you can always introduce yourself. You become a public figure once you are a published author. So you need to not just jump into the arena and go, hey, I'm here, pay attention to me. You need to give them a reason to pay attention to you. So start early, start sharing some of your journey with them. Say, hey, I'm deciding to write a book. What book genre are you going to be writing? Are you going to be writing about children's books? Is it going to be science fiction? Is it going to be history, self-help? Is it a memoir? What it is are you going to write? Talk to your audience about that. Talk to them about why you want to write that book. Talk to them about some of your struggles, some of the things you learned along your journey. And then when you get closer, ask them their opinion on book cover ideas, character ideas if you're writing in fiction. If you're presenting information, ask them what they think would be the best advice or the best way to present the information. Share with them your book covers. Talk to them about your author bio that you're going to include in your book, the back cover copy, what you're going to say about your book. All of these things are very helpful in getting them to connect to you as an author and then become raving fans once your book comes out. A lot of times people can use social media to gather the supporters that they need, whether they are other authors or just readers or anyone else out there who will support them in getting the word out about their book when they're ready to launch it. People talk about launch teams. This is exactly how you create a launch team. Create your own Facebook group, private group or whatever, and invite those people in to plot and plan how you're going to produce this book, how you're going to share it out into the world, because when it goes out live, that's your first time, that's your first foray. It's kind of like being a debutante presented at the ball. So make sure you're well dressed and ready for that moment. So I hope that you find social media is not that difficult. There are many, many tools out there to help you. My preferred tool is Buffer. I like it because it's simple, it's clean, and it doesn't give me a lot of extra stuff that I don't know how to use. Um, but there are many other. There's Hootsuite. I'm sure there's a whole list of other ones that will help you with posting. I like using these because I can go in on one day a week, one day a month, and set up my post for the next week or the next month or for however long. Most of them don't let you post things out more than 30 days, but some of them allow that. But it does give you a better idea, so that you always see those posts from people that have this amazing banner about this holiday or that holiday or how it fits with their book. Well, if you have one of these kinds of programs, it does help you to know that in advance, create all of that stuff, get the post ready. You can sit there and think about it. It isn't having to come off at the top of your head. There are many tools or many classes out there that will help you with that. I do not do those, but I can give you the basic information. And what I do know is, as we say here at the Writer's Parachute, we've got you a parachute so you can go jump off of that cliff and know you'll be safe going down. So take a chance, go start your social media, and don't worry. I'm doing TikTok now. It's like I have no clue what I'm doing on TikTok, but you know what I know? It's like if I mess up really bad, somebody's going to privately message me and say, you really shouldn't do that. And I go, oh, thank you. And then I fix it. So, it's not as scary as most people think it is. I mean, we always hear the terrible stories. Nobody tells the great stories. And I have a lot of great stories. I've met some amazing friends through social media that I am, really dedicated to, and they're dedicated to me. I've met, amazing, talented artists and illustrators and authors and writers of all levels, and people who support you. So go ahead and take that chance. Go dip your toe into social media. If you're a little more worried, try one at a time, although they're not as scary as you think. I hope that's helpful for you today, and that's our topic of the week. But now we want to get on to our interview because we have a really great guest today for you guys. It is Andrea Olatunji, and she is an author, writer, illustrator, and a Spanish teacher. We're going to talk to her about her two books, Omar the Jaguar and Guillermo the Armadillo. Andrea is an award-winning author and a seasoned educator, and she lives by her mission to validate and instill an appreciation for diversity in young children. She developed a passion for languages and cultures early on her 20-plus year career. She has taught English as a second language and Spanish in her native Uruguay and here in the United States, gaining valuable expertise with diversity and multicultural environments. Her children's book series, and I'm not even going to say it, I'll let you say it, is a fantastic resource to learn Spanish in a contextualized and fun way. The series features Latin America fauna while teaching important values. Her first book, Omar el Jaguar, is the recipient of the Moonbeam Spirit Award in the category of preservation. It has been named an award-winning finalist in the children's education category of the 2020 International Book Awards, and lately it won the Cover Design Award for Kids Shelf Books. The story creates diversity while raising awareness about climate change. Her second book, Guillermo el Armadillo, is a tribute to her own students. Based in a project she used in her classroom, the story inspires kids to discover their unique talents. This book received an honorary mention in the International Latino Book Awards for Best Educational Picture Book. Being an educator, Andrea couldn't help but create educator guides for these books, including lesson plans, guiding questions, project ideas, and assessments. She lives with her husband and son in New Orleans, but I understand she recently relocated to the Dominican Republic, and the perfect place to nurture her passion for books, art, and education. Welcome to the Writer's Parachute. Andrea, how are you?
Hello, hello, Donna. Thank you so much for having me and for that nice introduction. It's an honor to be here in your program, and I'm very excited about chatting with you, having a conversation with you, and with this beautiful audience that you have.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We love having authors and writers on here, but you're like the 1, 2, 3 punch. You're an author, you're an illustrator, and you're a teacher. It's like, man, there's like
All
my
in
total
one, all
jam.
in one. Yes. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I've been a teacher for many, many years, and I always had this passion for books,
mhm,
And in my classes, I was always looking for literature to use in my units, to help my children learn the language. And about 3 years ago,
mhm,
I decided, I had the time card and say, well, now is the good time, it's a good moment to publish my own books.
mhm.
So that's how it all started.
All right, awesome. Well, you've written and illustrated these children books, and they're bilingual children's books, which is
Uh-huh.
amazing. And I wanted to know why that was an important mission for you to make not only Spanish language books, but to make them bilingual.
Okay, well, as a Spanish teacher and also a Latina, I grew up with this passion for languages. I feel that languages open doors, to other words, to communicate with other people, and not just the language, but learning about cultures, learning about how these people eat, how they live, what they value. And at the same time, realizing how similar we are and how different we are. So bilingual books for me are a wonderful resource to help children, when they can read and they can be read in the stronger language, but at the same time they can learn new phrases and words from the other language is a very, powerful tool. Also, it creates this connection, this bridge between the two languages. So when children hear the same story read in different languages, they start making these connections like, oh, that word sounds similar, or oh, we say that in a different way in this language. So they start making these patterns and these connections, which are very, very helpful. As an educator, I find, and as a mom as well, I find that a very, very valuable resource. I had encountered many students in my classes who are of Latino descent, but they don't speak any Spanish, and their parents, want them to be exposed to the language, to practice. So it's wonderful for them to be able to have this book that has both languages, so they can read, translate, explain, and go back and forth. So yeah, it's very, very important for me.
Right,
Absolutely.
which is kind of what I was going to ask you about next. I mean, as a Spanish teacher, you see students struggle with new languages. So I want to know in specific, not just your picture books, but picture books and children's books, as I know as a former reading specialist and talking to teachers around the world, it provides kind of a helpful tool in learning and reinforcing language skills, whether it be English to English or English to Spanish or Spanish to English or any kind of language skills that you have. So, what do you think about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that, uh, storytelling is one of the most powerful tools. As a teacher, I always tried, different strategies, different approaches, and I have found out that, at the end of the day, it's always storytelling. It's one of the most powerful tools. And I believe it's because when kids listen to the story, they get submerged into this new world and this character and the experiences that they're going through, and they get more concerned about what's going to happen to this character, what is he going to do, what is he thinking, and they actually forget that they are using the language to understand the story. And as a foreign language teacher, for example, it lowers the anxiety of, oh, am I using the correct grammar, is it the right conjugation of a verb. They forget all about that, and they want to participate, they want to interact, they want to ask you questions about the story. So we all get lost in this in this world, and we forget about the technicality, the logistics of the language. So in that sense, I think it's a more fun, it's an easier path to literacy. Mm-hmm.
Right. And what I have seen as a reading teacher, especially working with students who do struggle between two languages, where they're speaking one language in school and they're speaking a different language when they go home. And for
Uh-huh.
them to bridge that gap, books like yours that have both languages makes it very easy for that child to now take that book home and work with their parent, or to let their parent independently discover that they can learn the language as well, which has been, has been a struggle, not only here in this country but in all countries around the world. People who are transplanted or in a place where they don't understand the language are struggling constantly to understand what's going on around them. And I think that people discount children's books and what an amazing tool they can provide for the simplest of reasons. I always tell people children's books are not simple, they're grand ideas simplified.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I always consider children's books like doors to conversations, like with my own son, for example, like he many times, like kids, they come to you like, Mom, why is this or that? And you're like, oops, I have no idea. So always grabbing a book and, oh, let's find out. And we do it together. Or sometimes conversations that are not so easy for us adults to explain to children. And when you put it into this story and these characters, it just simplifies it, and it opens this possibility, for the child to keep asking more questions and discovering, new things. So yeah, they're absolutely
Right. And I always find that a fascinating learning thing that we forget, because a lot of times, you hear parents going, well, I will talk to them about, or I will tell them. But one of the nice things about a story is they get to discover and figure it out for themselves. And
right.
that is so empowering to a child to realize that they can take information and and make a lesson or make an idea out of it and figure things out for themselves, which I mean, personally, as a fellow children's author, it's like that's the part I love, is when you see that light bulb go off in their head and you're just like, yes.
You got it. You got it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so now your books focus on the common animals and cultures that you call the Americas, but you're typically meaning more of the Spanish-speaking parts of the Americas. And I wanted to know why that was a critical part of your stories.
Well, again, I created my books first to help my own students learn the language. And I thought that including these animals was a great way to open the door to these new cultures. So we learn about the animals, we learn about this animal ecosystem, we learn about the countries where these animals live, and it's kind of like an indirect way to get into the culture, and explore it from that angle. I love nature, and I think it's always very important to raise awareness, especially in young children, about, most of the animals that are pictured in my books are animals that are in danger of extinction. So for example, in my first book is the jaguar, and we get into the Amazon forest and all these animals, and studying the jaguar and why the jaguar is so important in the Latin American culture. Many pre-Columbian societies consider the jaguar sacred, like a sacred animal. Why was that? So it's kind of like different layers. You start with the animals, and you get into these regions, and then talking about these issues around the animals. On the other hand, another important reason for me to use animals is to allow the student to get more easily into the conversations. For example, my books have messages like diversity, addressing our differences, celebrating our differences, our self-esteem, empowering yourself to discover your talent. And as much as I am in favor of more representation in children's books, and I want to see more kids that look at my real kids in the classroom and my own child, I think that when the character is an animal, it impersonalizes the conversation. So it's not that child that looks like me, but it's like this jaguar. What did he do? Do you think that was right? And then in the conversation, we get into what about you? What about your friends? You know, but I think it's a slower process, and it enables the children to give their opinion and to verbalize it more easily. You know, if it's an armadillo or if it's a jaguar, it's not me, it's the jaguar, you know. So I think that that's also an important reason why I'm using animals.
Well, and I agree with you. Before, I wrote my children's book series, which also involved animals, going to superhero school. I did talk to a lot of students about this. And the one thing that I kept hearing repeated over and over again was I did not see myself in that story. I did not see me on that book cover. I did not see somebody like me on that book. And so, again, it's a little bit of a sidestep, but it works really well because they can relate to the characters almost, as you said, in an impersonal manner, but see themselves in it, because there isn't this question of, do they have the same hairstyle as I do? Do they dress like me? Because they're animals. They're going to be completely different. So there is that kinship with somebody being completely different. But
absolutely,
again,
and at the same time, it doesn't matter if the child, if he's a boy or a girl, they will identify with this jaguar or with this armadillo. So not that, again, that I'm not in favor of more representation. I think it's super important that a child can open a book and see this child that has the same color skin as they have, the same hairstyle, that they have, or just see themselves reflected in the characters. But it's just different avenues, to empower children and to bring these conversations.
Well, and again, I think probably what's happening in both my books and your books is we have, for lack of a better term, other fish to fry than going for the diversity. We are, your books are more talking about, again, self-esteem and diversity and conservation and stuff like that. And my books are talking about sort of the same thing: diversity, self-esteem. And so we're trying to get to those ideas a little quicker without having to worry about being representative of everyone. It's like you kind of just skip over that to get to a different meatier subject. So I think it works really well. So in your first book, Omar El Jaguar, you talk about friendship, and we talked about that a little bit. And I just wanted to know, it also talks about conservation towards the end of the book, but I wanted to know what it was that you were hoping that your readers would learn from Omar's story, because it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, for those in the audience that don't know the story, in short, is this jaguar is a lonely jaguar. He's trying to find friends to play with. So he encounters other animals. He meets a sloth, a toucan, and an anaconda, and they invite him to play, but first he refuses to play with them because he thinks that they're not alike, so they're not, they won't be good friends. They won't be able to play themselves, to play together and enjoy it. So towards the end of the story, he realizes that his environment is changing. They are in the Amazon forest. He looks and says, oh, the trees are disappearing. And he realizes that he has that in common with these animals, that they live in that place. They share a home. So they need to be together to protect this environment. And that, being together is not a problem. If you're different, it's the opposite. It's like it enriches you. So I love to communicate this message to children, because especially in this book's audience between 4 and 8 years old, they're like, oh, and nowadays, we're so mobile, so global. Like, it's not rare to have in a classroom to have a child that doesn't speak your language. In my classroom right now, I have kids who speak Spanish, English, Polish with no English or Spanish, or bilingual. So it's just, another, a good opportunity for children to understand and to learn that, well, when you encounter a person that's different from you physically, or the language or their culture, you shouldn't approach them with fear. You should approach them, with curiosity, and try to ask questions and try to learn more about them, because that helps us grow. That helps us, be better. So yeah, it's a beautiful lesson on diversity that can be, translated to little kids like 4, 5, 6 years old. So that's the main message in Omar.
Right. When I go to classrooms, I talk about kids about, you shouldn't always pick the friend that's like you because you already know what they're going to be like. You should go pick people that you don't know because it inspires you to learn more. It inspires you to try more things, and it inspires you to understand that that you aren't always the center of the world, that there are other people in the world that can teach you and that can share with you, and it makes both of those people better.
Absolutely. Yeah. It just stretches you to, and other possibilities. And then you realize, oops, okay, we're different, but there's always something in common. There's
Right.
always things that we share. We're human beings.
Even if
So
that common factor is they're afraid of each other.
probably. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful lesson to try to instill in people as young as possible. Nowadays I think it's a very timely message.
Yeah.
And when kids grow
Mhm.
exposed to other cultures, it's just wonderful. And sometimes it's easy when they live in areas that are more metropolitan. It just happens. Sometimes it's not. So when you bring it in stories and you have these conversations as a parent or as an educator, it's definitely valuable.
Yes, yes, and I find I love these books. So in your second book, Guillermo, I'm pronouncing
Dijo,
that.
Dijo,
Thank
Dijo
you.
l'armadillo. Uh-huh.
Uh, he's an armadillo, and it's the second book in your series. And again, I tripped over. Can you say what the name of the series is? It's
Oh, the series is called Nuestra Fauna. It's
okay.
our fauna because again, it highlights Latin American fauna.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so anyway, the second book, Guillermo, the Armadillo, is about what makes us unique. And I
Mhm.
wanted to know why you think his struggle to find his talent was so important. Now, I know part of this goes back to your classroom, but I
Uh,
wanted to know at the heart of it why you think this struggle is so important.
because I think that this is a struggle that we all have. For some of us is more clear. We can realize at an early age. I have friends who I remember being in elementary school and they were like, I want to be a lawyer. And today they're successful lawyers and they enjoy what they do. For others, it's more of a journey, and it takes trial and error and it takes ups and downs and it takes, more time to realize, what is our passion, what is our mission in this life. But we all have it, it's in there, and we're all good at something. We all know how to do something. And as you mentioned in the introduction, this book comes from a project that I usually do with my students that's called My Talent, when I challenge them to teach us, teach his peers and me something that they know how to do well. And again, some kids jump on it. It's like, oh, yeah, I can come. I know how to do this or that. And they just come and they're so excited about it. And there's always a couple who freak out. They're like, what? I don't have a talent. I don't know how to do anything. I was like, what do you mean you don't know how to do anything? Yeah, I'm sure you do. And in these conversations, we try to find and their talents, and there's always something. And the moment they get to present in class and we are all listening and looking at them and learning from them, it's just so validating and so empowering.
Mhm.
So I think that this message is important because it will help children think about that and reflect and dig inside them to see, okay, what is that thing that I can do that makes me unique? This armadillo realizes, by chance, he gets scared at some point and jumps and realizes that he can roll into a ball. And it's something that not many animals can do, right? So sometimes, and I said that in the introduction of the book, sometimes our talent is obvious. Some people are born, it's like, oh, wow, this child is going to be a wonderful athlete. They have this ear for the music. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's hiding in there, and we need to go in there and dig for it. And when it happens, it's beautiful, not only because, again, it validates us, but then you realize that, oh, I can teach this to another person and I can share this with the world. And then comes the magic, right? Then it's the wonderful thing.
And it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to mangle it terribly here, but basically it just says that, what we believe is common to us is exciting and amazing to other people. We do not often recognize what we're good at. So I worked with a teacher once when we did a classroom project together where we were, instead of asking the person what they felt they were good at, we would ask three of their friends, tell us what you think this
Uh-huh.
person is good at. And
Beautiful.
it was amazing. And it was very empowering to these students because not only did they get to hear what their friends thought about them, they got to hear about things that they just took for granted as, oh, well, yeah, I'm good at math, but that's easy for me. But it's not easy for everyone. So those that aren't
All right, you're
math,
so
that thing seems amazing. It truly looks like a talent. So this was good, and I love that you brought that forward in this story of the armadillo. So that was pretty cool. So I wanted to know, we talked about this a little bit before, but I want to know why specifically you think animals were the best avenue to convey these particular lessons. I mean, we talked about the diversity and the getting them into the story, but why this story of what the animals were struggling with?
Okay, well, first of all, I think that children have a natural appeal for animals.
Mhm.
Most kids like animals, one sort or another. Some kids are more fascinated with wild animals, others prefer more like cute
Mhm.
little animals. But the kids can immediately, get hooked to an animal story. And second, as I mentioned before, I think it provides this impersonalization. The child immediately can judge, they can look and say, oh no, Omar was mean. He told these animals, no, he didn't want to play. Why was he mean? And, but they would never say like, oh, I was mean or this happened to me. They don't have that capacity of auto reflection. So when you put it in the animal, again, it becomes this canvas where everybody can throw ideas and opinions, and we start the dialogue there. Mm-hmm.
Well, and then you used it very effectively also to bring in other outside ideas, such as, like I said, conservation and about kindness and about uh, fear. I mean, in the armadillo story, I mean, there was a lot of fear that was underneath that wasn't very obvious, but it was there. And so I
And
love that you were
immediately when you start reading the story of Guillo, he's this child that doesn't fit. That's who he is. Many of my students are represented in this armadillo. It's this child that's there. And the armadillo, I thought it was a very appropriate animal to embody this character, because the armadillo is this, it looks timid and they're hiding, but at the same time, he has this armor, and when he discovers his talent, it's like, okay, I'm empowered. This is me. So yeah, children can immediately, kids are very smart. Don't never underestimate children. When you start reading the story, they don't even say it, but I know that they're looking at the stories like, oh, that's me. When I go to school through the week and the teacher proposes to do this or that, and I never fit, it's never good for me. Or at the end of the day, I think I'm good for nothing, that everybody has a talent, everybody can do it, but not me, right? So in that sense, I think, yeah, Gishu's it's a lovely character in there. It's a lovely personification of this.
well, and I also think it pulls at their heartstrings a little bit, because
Uh-huh.
whether or not they like a particular animal doesn't always matter, because I think children and most adults too have an affinity for animals, because we feel like we're protectors for them in some way or another. So when one is being either anthropomorphized, which is what you're doing here in your books, and I am too, or
Mhm.
whether they're in real danger. It's like we always feel for them, even if they're, what we would consider a predator. We always feel for them. It's like, when they talk about,
Right, right.
here in California, we have a lot of, bears coming into some areas and going into trash cans and breaking into houses and cars and stuff like that. And people are just very outraged, a lot of damage and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
then when they get to the
But
point,
with children in particular, kids are very curious. When I do, I've been doing a lot of
mhm,
virtual visits during this pandemic, and
mhm,
we get into this conversation, we read the story, and then they get so excited, they want to know, because most of the animals that appear in these books are not your common animals in the United States. For example, I'm going to show you some. Here is the condor, you know, and they think it's an eagle. It's like, well, no, this is a condor. And we learn about the condor. They learn that there's a pink dolphin in the Amazon River. And, you know, for them, it's like, oh, wow, where all these animals come from? You know, we talk about the jaguar and they're like, is that a leopard or a cheetah? And it's like, oh, what's the difference? How would you tell? You know, if you ever met a jaguar and a leopard, they're pretty much alike. How would you tell? So we embark in this fascinating trip, you know, through the jungles to the forest and discovering these animals. And kids get super excited and they're so analytical and specific, you know, like they want to know specifically where does the condor live, you know.
Well, yeah, but what I was trying to go for there is like I said, you know, we have these break-ins here in the area with the animals up in the mountains and the lower elevations, you know, breaking into stuff. And you know, like I said, people get outraged because it is a lot of damage and it is a bit scary to, you know, find a, you know, a big bear on your lawn or on your back porch. But I always find it fascinating to watch the immediate shift when the authorities go, well, we're going to have to take this bear down. We're going to have to, you know, probably do something about him. And everybody's just like, no, 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 we don't want you to do that.
The thing is, like, I mean, these poor animals, you know, we're invading the territory. So they don't realize that they, you know, they're looking for food and oops, all of a sudden they are in the highway. You know? Yeah, that's pretty sad.
But I think that, you know, I think that naturally comes into part of what we use as storytelling is that we know that all, you know, most of us have some affinity for our animal, you know, friends out there. So that's what I was trying to make the connection with there is that, you know, it does pull at their heartstrings immediately because when they see an animal in trouble, you know, our reaction most of the time is to go see if we can help. You know, even in a story, it's like, what can we do to help? What can we do to make it better?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, we're going to shift gears just a little bit. And so we know here on the Writer's Parachute that all authors and writers run into all kinds of obstacles and challenges when they're writing and publishing their book. And we would like to know, what was your biggest challenge and what do you think you learned from it?
Good question. Well, I think my biggest challenge was the realization that writing and publishing a book is not just about writing and publishing the book. You know, as writers and creators, illustrators, we put a lot of energy into, of course, and that should be that way, you know, creating this good product. You wanted to create this good quality product. So you put lots of thoughts into your writing, into your illustrations, editing the book, the formatting, and then your book is ready and printed and you have it right there in your house or in a warehouse. And okay, now you need to sell the books. If you want to do it as a business, right? Which most of us, I think, do. So it's like, okay, now comes this whole other word, you know, that is marketing your book, creating your brand and communicating that to your audience, building your audience. And for me, that was a whole new word. I had to actually, you know, go and learn. I read a lot and I connected with amazing groups. That's one of my best things I've done in this journey is connecting with other authors and people who have been there, who can give you ideas and support you. But the whole marketing sales part was, you know, for me, like foreign land. And I had to learn a lot about that. And I'm still learning, of course. But I thought that I think that was my biggest challenge, you know, and I thought I had started it earlier, you know, I started like a year before I published my book because I read about it. Like, okay, yeah, I'm going to start early, 1 year before publishing my book, started creating my subscribers list, connecting with my audience, putting myself out there in social media. And still, you know, once I had my book, I was like, oh, I should have started earlier, you know, like giving myself more time. So yeah, definitely that has been a challenge.
Well, yeah, and I want to ask you a kind of a follow-up question to that. Did you find that you ran into the one that I hear often is where, you know, you end up with, you know, a group of other authors and stuff that have been through the journey, and while they're trying to be helpful and they're offering, it's like do this, do that, which worked for them but didn't necessarily work for you. Did you run into some of that? Because I find that where the frustration comes in is you're trying everything without a plan.
Yeah, well, again, I found these groups, you know, I have connected with many author groups and I have a nice niche group of authors that, you know, I can call my friends, even though some of them we have never seen each other face to face, you know, but it's been a beautiful support system, you know, of people who have much more experience than me, people who are just starting, and I can maybe share something with them. So this interchange of ideas and, you know, just brainstorming, or as you mentioned in the introduction, you sometimes like, okay, what do you think about this cover? Or, you know, you can do it with your audience, but you can also do it in these groups, which is a safer place before you go out and share with your
Yes.
and that to me has been invaluable. And it's true, sometimes, you know, they tell you, oh, you should do this and that. It worked wonders for me. And you go try, and it's not your niche, it's not your audience, or it's not your style, or it's not you, your personality. You know, like I have friends who are like so funny. They have this amazing sense of humor. They go on Instagram and they put these videos. I crack up. I'm like just crying, you know, I'm laughing. I was like, oh my God, please do never stop doing this. It's so fun. And it's so relatable. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's totally me. And I know, you know, they connect with their audience in the same way. If it happens to me, it happens to everybody who watches them. But I cannot do that. I would not go on Instagram and dance and do the thing, because I would look ridiculous, you know. So it doesn't work for me. I love it, but no, I have to go some other way. And I think that that's important for us, you know, I mean, I'm blessed and thankful to have this, you know, abundance of ideas and originality and creativity. And you see them in action, like, wow, this is great. And then you can reflect on that and say, okay, yeah, I can do that. Or, oh, no, never, that's not me. Or, oh, what an original idea. Never thought about that. So again, you take what works for you and, you know, you discard what it doesn't. But it's definitely wonderful to, I would recommend it to any writer, illustrator, any person who's thinking about writing a book. Please build that support system. This is the people that are gonna be there for you, that in years to come, when you are, you know, this best-selling author, they're gonna be there for you to cheer you up, and they know you, and they will come, you know, and tell you, hey, Andrea, no, don't do that again. Doesn't look good, you know. And you can trust, because they're gonna give you this honest and amazing feedback. So that's invaluable. Absolutely.
It is. And you did kind of touch on something in there that was a little hidden. So I'm going to pull it out and make it a little bit of a point here. And that is, you do have to recognize what works for you and your brand and what will not. You know, as you said, I mean, there are certain things that I don't do because I would feel ridiculous. I would probably look ridiculous, and I would sound like I was not passionate about because I felt ridiculous. So it's like, those are the things that I would avoid. You know, there's other things that, you know, I just would not feel confident doing. And it's like, so that's kind of, you know, for me, it's more of a gut feeling. But I, you know, and I talk about this a lot here on the podcast about, you have to decide what it is you want to get at the end of the rainbow before you figure out which rainbow you're going to go chase.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a process. It takes time, you know, like for me, it happened in the same way with marketing. For me, marketing was like the enemy. You know, it's like, oh no, this is just, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I can't handle it. And then I started seeing it, you know, how it would work for me. I was like, okay, at heart, I'm an educator. You know, I've been in the classroom all my life. So what do? I help people. I help people discover things. I help people learn, you know. So when I put myself out there in social media, if I'm sharing something in these groups, it's because I feel that, okay, it worked for me and it might help you. So when I do it in that sense, because sometimes that also, you know, it happened in conversations with other authors when we are pitching our book, or we're trying to, you know, to get our audience engaged, we feel kind of embarrassed, like, oh, I don't want to annoy them and send them another email, another newsletter. They're going to, you know, they're going to be overwhelmed. But then when you see it from the point that, okay, these people are your subscribers, they are your followers because they like what you do and they want to see what you have there in your bag. So if you put it up there, you know, as a tool for them to help them in their at home, in their classrooms, or, you know, as authors, that helped me see it in a different, you know, angle. It's like, okay, well, yeah, that can work for me. So, but it takes time. You have to try, you have to throw things out there, and sometimes they don't work, and it's okay. You need to give yourself grace and say, okay, fine, yeah, I won't do it again. Just happens.
It's that's it. If it feels, it feels like something you should be doing and you're trying, it just doesn't work out. It may not be the process. It may not be you. It could be just that that's not what your audience connects with, and to you and your book. So that's just it. And I'm just going to say one thing here about the too much that you're talking about. It's like, oh, I'm posting too often. Oh, I'm too many emails and stuff like that. Your audience has the exact same ability that you do. They can scroll past you if they feel like you're too much. They can unfriend you, unfollow you. If you're sending too many emails, they can unsubscribe. They have all of that control. So don't worry about it. That's their end of the rainbow. They're going to figure out what they're going to do with the information when you give it to them. Yours is producing the rainbow, so they see it. So
Absolutely, yeah. And at the same time, I mean, it's good to reflect and define, where are you going? How do you want to come across? What is your tone? Do you want to be funny? Do you want to be more, instructional or more academic? I mean, but that's something that you actually do need to reflect on and build your brand around that, because you want to be consistent, right? You don't want to be there one day like, oh, I'm here, joking and being funny, and the next day you're totally serious. Like, your audience is going to get totally confused.
Right.
So you want them to know what to expect from you. Like, every time they see an illustration, or if they see an email, or even a post on Instagram, oh, that's Andrea. It's totally her style. You want that, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question for you. You are not only a writer, an author, and a teacher, you are also an illustrator, which I find amazing that you guys can do both sides of a book. That I don't know. I think I would get stuck on which one I love better. And it's, it's like picking your favorite child. It's like you don't want to, but it happens. So I want to know, what advice would you want to give to upcoming author illustrators out there?
Okay, good question. Well, first of all, as I just mentioned, find who you are. How do you want to communicate? Define your brand, your style. There are many amazing illustrators out there, and sometimes I look at illustrators, I'm like, oh my god, this is just so beautiful. But you don't want to try to be that illustrator or that author. You want to be authentic. You want to create your own style. So it's okay to get inspiration, and you should expose yourself and inspire yourself with as many, creators as you can. But at the same time, build your own unique style, your own personality. I think that's really important. And another thing would be, just do it. If you're a writer, just draw, just illustrate, just write, just put it out there. And it's gonna, then you filter, then you have the material out there to look and decide what you want to do with it. But I think it's important for us to keep this creative spirit, to keep producing. And then connect with your audience. Yeah, you want to define your audience. You don't want everybody, like when I hear people say like, oh, my books are for everybody. How come?
That translates to they're not for anybody, because nobody specifically is being addressed.
Absolutely. So yeah, you want to have, you don't want to have like 1 million followers that just click and like your stuff, but they're not really supporting, or they're not going to be buying your books. It's better to have a smaller group that are there for you, and they're commenting on what you post, and they're engaged in your content. So yeah, that I think is some of the most important things to consider.
Right. And well, I think that's excellent advice. So I want to also know, what 3 things do you wish you had known or someone had told you before you began your writing and publishing journey?
Ha ha ha. Let me see. Well, first, that book writing and publishing is a business. It can be your passion project too. We all, if we publish a book, it's because we feel that it deserves to be out there in the world to help somebody, or it comes from some personal experience that you think it deserves to be on paper and spread out to other people, because again, it might help them. But most of us, if you want to publish a book, if you want to have it out there in the store, it's because you want to sell it. So you should take that project as a business too. I was at first all into my art and my books and designs, and it took a mind swift, to think, okay, no, yeah, great, but at the same time, you do want to sell your books, so you need to consider other elements, like organizing yourself, your finances, organizing your files and your sales, and have your spreadsheets with all the information in there and all that kind of stuff. I think it's very, very important. Number two, that it takes time. I tend to be a very impatient person, so I have these wonderful ideas. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I want to get done. Like it happened to me, for example, with Amazon ads. Okay, Amazon ads, another enemy out there. I was like, oh, okay, I'm never going to understand how they work. So I started reading, I started looking, watching webinars, consulting with other authors and coaches, and going into the Amazon, thing there and trying to figure it out and change things. And I would create my ads and then wait 5 days and look at them. And I'm like, okay, it's not working. I need to change everything again. And somebody told me, okay, no, Andrea, no. You need to just let it sink. The algorithm has to catch in there, let it sit. So create the ad and leave it alone. Don't touch it. But I tend to be that way with everything. It's like, oh, it's not working. Fine, let's change everything now. And it's so time consuming and energy consuming. So be patient. It takes time. Creating, making your books a success. It takes time. For us, for many of us, it can take your whole life. Creating your brand takes time, a lot of testing, a lot of trying, creating your audience, building your audience, these people who trust you, who follow you. How are they going to trust you if they don't know you? They have to see you and hear you for long enough. So be patient. And number three, what I wish I had been told. Let me see. To connect, probably, make your time to connect with other like-minded authors and artists, illustrators, because there's always so much to learn from them. And then when you get ahead in the journey, and you can look at these new authors and illustrators starting and have all these full of questions, and they're like, oh, that's me, and I can come now and help them, even if it's a little bit, but you can contribute to helping them and move forward in their careers as well. That's wonderful.
Those are some amazing three things. So I'm going to reiterate them. So basically going to break these down to some simple ideas. She's talking about create your community around you. You need that support. This is a long, lonely business. So make sure you have those supporters around you. Create your community. Number two, she talked about being impatient. We have a business that is a marathon, not a sprint. Once those books are out there, they're out there for a very long time. If something isn't working, wait a minute, see if it just takes your audience a little bit to catch up, or the world to catch up, or whatever to catch up. Be patient, take your time, be methodical. And third, you talked about being a business. Writing a book, being an author is a business. You do have to approach it in a business-like manner, which is really a mind shift to creators, because as creators, it's like everything is possible. But when you get to the other side, you have to shift gears into this. It's a business. It needs to be run like a business. You need to keep track of expenses. You need to make choices based on reality, not on fantasy, which is, again, a big departure when you're a fantasy creator. So you just have to think about, this is the dull part of the business, but it is a necessary part so that you can be free to create. So I appreciate that. Don't forget her 3 tips here. I mean, these are amazing tips, people. It's like, it's a business. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and build a community around you for support. Those are just awesome. So thank you for those. Wow.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So I have another one for you, and I'm hoping I'm going to get a big tip here too. So if you could speak to your younger self today, what do you think you would say?
Good question. Well, first, be patient, Andrea. Everything doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't mean that it's not working. just give it time and observe and hang in there. It will. Keep trying, keep working hard for your dreams, pursue your dreams. And another thing I would tell my younger self, don't be shy to be who you are, to put yourself out there. As a young lady, as a child, I was painfully shy. Like, you would call my name and I would hide under the table, literally. It's like I didn't want to be the center of attention at all. Then when I started teaching, that helped me a lot. Like, I was standing most of the time in front of this audience, and I had to be, talking to them, and so I think I outgrew that shyness. I'm not the most extroverted person, but I think I outgrew that, and I work with that, in my ears. But that's something I would tell my younger self. Like, sometimes, as you mentioned before, like, sometimes we think, like, I remember, for example, like, my first years in teaching, and then my husband would come, like, oh, that project you did, that's pretty awesome. You should share it with other teachers. And I was thinking, like, and who cares? It's not something special. Like, everybody does this. And then I realized, I had an opportunity to work as department chair one time and observe teachers, observe classes. And I realized, well, no, it's not obvious for everybody. Not everybody thinks or it's not natural for everybody. So, yeah, I would tell myself, like, just share it with people. Don't be scared about it. Just put yourself out there. For many of us authors, writers, we're usually kind of like shy. We like to be in our own, room, writing, painting, but but then we realize, oh no, we need to promote our stuff right now. We need to go on social media. We need to, do virtual visits and stuff like that. It's like, oops, how is that going to happen? And you need to, again, stretch out, get out of your comfort zone, and communicate your passion, communicate who you are. And when that happens, people see it, especially kids, because they're very good observers, and they can see when you're doing things from the heart and when it's something, that doesn't come like that. So yeah, those would be my drops of advice to my younger self.
Well, like I said, I think a lot of people, when they talk to their younger self, what I hear oftentimes is just be more. Just be more.
Yeah.
Just be more. Just be, or be less afraid. Be less of the bad things and more of the good things. There you go.
My grandmother used to tell me, like, we're not a golden coin for everybody to love you. So, you put yourself out there. Some people are going to think it's awesome. Some people are going to think, like, oh my God, what is she doing? And that's fine. And that's fine. We need to just try.
Well, I mean, that's my personality in a nutshell. People either love me or they don't love me, but they always talk about me.
That's
So, I mean, you can't ask for more than that.
And that's a good thing. Yes, absolutely.
So what is next for Andrea?
Well, I just relocated. We decided to go with my family, my husband and my son. My son is 7. We decided to go in this big adventure of selling all our stuff in the United States, packing our things, and moving out of the country. So we just moved to the Dominican Republic. And I came back to the classroom. I've been out of the classroom through the pandemic. And I came back to the classroom now. So it's been a huge change for us, like changing, even though I am Latina, the Dominican Republic is a different culture for me. That's something that sometimes people don't realize, how diverse we are within the Latino community. So there are things that I find familiar, and there are things that are totally different from my home country, Uruguay. So, it's been we've been here for like a month now, a month and a half. So we just landed. And lots of learning, lots of, adjusting. Shopping is different, going to work is different. Everything's different. And so, but at the same time, I keep reflecting, when you get frustrated with things because we always like our comfort zones. We like what's familiar to us, right? And that's the beauty of stretching out and jumping into this, foreign land, literally. And I've been doing a lot of reflection and thinking, okay, yeah, this is frustrating, but at the end of the day, why am I here? Why we decide to do this? Okay. And what do I have to learn, from this new stage in my life? So I'm in the process now, and it's extremely inspiring me. This island is just beautiful. Oh, you should see. It's like palm trees and mango trees. All of my son is in heaven. He's all day outside grabbing food from the trees. School is outside basically all day. So he's in heaven, and the community is beautiful. He connected with a lot of kids. We connected with a lot of people. A lot of diversity here. As I said before, I have students from Poland, Canada, Russia, the Dominican Republic. I mean, it's just incredible. So all of that is inspiring me tremendously. So I'm in the process now of like, okay, I was working on my third book when I was in New Orleans in the States. And now that is on like in standby because I'm reworking my whole author business from the Dominican Republic. But I'm thinking, okay, that book is gonna come, and at the same time, other ideas are flourishing here, and I'm thinking, coming back to the classroom and being with other teachers, observing. I'm teaching kindergarten, which is a grade that I love. They're just like full of energy, full of creativity there. So I feel at this point very inspired, and something is cooking. I'm not sure what yet. I let you know.
Well, I certainly understand that. I always have a bunch of stuff cooking in the background. So
something is brewing there. I don't know. I'm not fully sure now to just comment on it.
Well, whenever you decide and you land on a topic and that next book is headed out, we would love to have you come back and talk to us about the new
my
book.
pleasure.
But we want to know specifically, where can they find the books, the Omar, the Jaguar, and Gilo, the Armadillo? Where can we find those?
Yeah, well, you can find them on Amazon. I have an author page on Amazon, Andrea Olatunji. You can also go to my website. My website is cuentacuento.com. You're going to share the links.
Yes.
I think we talk about that. Cuentacuento.com. There in my website, you can access my Amazon page. You can access all my resources and materials. As you mentioned, I created educator's guides for this book. So if you're a teacher, my books are like onions. You can think, oh, this is a book for like a little kid. I ended up, when I published my first book, Omar, I was teaching middle school. And we ended up, my students learned that I was publishing this book, and it's like, oh, we want to hear it. We want to see it, of course. So I thought, I don't know if they're going to find it too attractive because it's kind of like for younger kids. But we ended up doing a whole unit on the Amazon forest and the jaguar. So if you're a teacher, I mean, I created these guides with lots of ideas, project ideas, guiding questions, lesson plans that you can just photocopy. I know as teachers, we're very creative, but we don't have time. So you can easily photocopy and implement in your class. So my website, Cuenta Cuento, you can access all of that. You can learn more about me. And also, I'm pretty active on social media, mostly on Instagram. You can find me by my name, Andrea Olatunji, or on Facebook, it's Andrea Olatunji Books. And, I like sharing some fun things that I encounter, like book stuff and, ideas and things that inspire me, and just having the conversation again, as a teacher and author, both of them are kind of isolating experiences most of the time. So connecting with people, with parents, with other teachers, with other authors, and just sharing, laughing together, crying together. It enriches me. I feel like pumped up when I'm in these conversations, like, oh, okay, that was nice. Now I'm ready to go on.
Oh, wow, that sounds exciting. And for those of you guys listening or here on YouTube with us, we will have all of the links for Andrea's, not only for all of her social media accounts, for her website, for both of her books, to her Amazon author page. And also we're going to link you to anything that you need to know about Andrea. We'll have her bio and everything for you, as along with a description of both of her books in the show notes for you. Of course, we want to thank you for being here, but we want you to stick around because we're going to go pull the ripcord on another tip of the week. But before we do, was there anything else that you would like to include before we do that?
Well, I thank you for having me, for having this time to have this conversation. And, it was a lot of fun. And thank you for sharing my links too. And I would like just to share with the audience, if you're a writer, or if you're an educator, just, pursue your passion. Just go from the heart, do it. It sounds cliche, but it's really what works, because both careers are pretty exhausting. I mean, they're energy draining, and you come to a point when you think, okay, am I doing the right thing? Should I go on? Or, you're in a classroom with 25 little kids jumping on your head. It's like, oh, am I in the right place? And just, keep pushing, keep doing it, because, both of these journeys are magnificent. It's like the most direct way to reach other human beings, to inspire them, to be better, to learn. And yeah, just keep going, keep going.
Right. Well, like I said, as a former teacher and reading specialist, it's like I can only reach so many kids in one single day. With a book, I can reach the world.
Exactly.
That is amazing to me. So, and I don't even have to worry about if it's in my lifetime or not, because that book's going to be out there for
Absolutely. And especially now, since the topic of the week now for you is social media. And now with social media, it's incredible. It even gets multiplied, because now you can do book readings virtually. I mean, during the pandemic, I've been visiting schools all over the world. And it's like, when would you do that before? It would take millions of dollars and endless energy. But now you can be in your office there and in your bedroom and just connect and be, talking to other authors, or visiting schools, sharing your passion and sharing about your books. So I think it's wonderful. Yeah, embrace social media, everybody.
Yeah, because it's like opening the door to the world. So just make sure you get a good message for them. So I'm going to go pull the report on the tip of the week. So this tip of the week, of course, we always try to dovetail it with what our author struggled with when we're interviewing. And so what Andrea brought up was about learning to market her book, and talking about, how much is too much, what's the best path. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. So again, this is one of the things that I find that authors put off until the moment of doom. At that moment, they're like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, the book's about to come out next week. I should really think about marketing. Well, truthfully, the thinking about marketing should have been at least 6 weeks before. 6 months would be better. A year would be even better than that. But I don't want to alarm you. If you did not, or you're in a lot closer time constraint than that, it's okay. Again, we just talked about the fact that your book is going to be out there for a very long time. So I want you to remember, if you don't do it this week, if you don't do it this month, if you don't do it in this next 3 months, 6 months, or a year, it's fine. Next year is coming, next month is coming, next week is coming, whatever, years and years from now, your book is still going to be out there. You're still going to be promoting it for years to come. So again, remember, marketing specifically is the part that we talk about that is a marathon, not a sprint. But if you want that marathon to go smoothly, having a marketing plan, and people get really scared when I say marketing plan. What I mean by marketing plan is just an idea of, where do you want to promote your book? Do you want to go into schools if you're a children's author? Do you want to have a billboard in Times Square? Do you want to be on television show? Do you want to be on podcasts? Do you want to be in a newspaper, in magazines? Do you want to be, up in front of large audiences at seminars and webinars, doing speaking engagements? Do you want to go to the local library and read your book on a regular basis? These are all things that you need to figure out for your marketing plan. And I would say the first place you need to look is, where's your audience? If you have not created what they call an avatar for your audience, this is a fun project to do, and one that I suggest to you. And all it is like figuring out some person that represents your audience. So so for my audience, I write middle grade children's chapter books. So my avatar is a 10-year-old little girl who lives in Kansas City, Kansas, who loves animals and is a little shy and introverted, and she's a little annoyed with her older brother. This is my avatar. So when I'm thinking about my audience, she comes to mind. I have a little picture of her in my head. What could I do that would get her attention? So this is what we're talking about, creating a marketing plan. Figure out who your audience is and what is going to get their attention. If you're writing a children's book, it's like, going and setting up a booth in front of a gaming parlor really is not going to be the best use of your time or energy. But now, if you're able to go to a craft fair or a school fair or something like that, that's where your audience is. So, again, marketing is all about figuring out how to reach your audience with the right message to get them to notice you, notice your book, and to buy it. There are a multitude of ways to create the beginning of that journey and how to end it. A lot of times they call that part, once you've got them there, you're both in the same place, they call it a call to action. So once you got their attention, what do you want them to do? That's also part of your marketing plan. Figure out what it is you want them to do. Do you want them to buy your book? Do you want them to sign up for your newsletter? Do you want them to write a review? What is it that you want from that audience member when you get their attention? Do you want them to talk to maybe a teacher in their school about doing more school visits? You want to talk to a parent that has several kids and it's like, say that, it's like, oh, this is a great book, but, I also do school visits. And I go into schools and talk about this subject and the subject that go along with my book. These are what we talk about in marketing. Marketing is not as complicated as everyone would lead you to believe. Marketing is simply about finding the right people to talk to about your book. So if you think of it in that way, if you write it down on a piece of paper and say, marketing is about finding the right people. And again, it's storytelling, which we're all really good about. Marketing is storytelling. If you tell a good story, if your journey in marketing is about telling that great story, then all of it's going to flow well and it's going to come easy. And then again, the only thing I'm going to reiterate that we brought up a couple of times is figure out which rainbow you're chasing. Because if you're chasing the rainbow that gets you on national television, but you pick the rainbow that gets you book reviews, you're not going to be happy. So make sure you know what it is you want to happen at the end of your rainbow when everything goes right. So those are my tip of the week on marketing. I hope that's helpful for you. And again, we don't give away everything here, but if you have specific questions about marketing or about social media, of course, we would love for you to leave us a comment or a question in the comment section, either here on YouTube or on the podcast platform that you're listening to us on. You can also contact us through the website, thewritersparachute.com, and leave us a note there. Of course, you can follow us on all social media at Writer Parachute. That's Writer Parachute with no S. And you can leave us a comment in one of our posts. We would be so happy to hear from you, and we will get back to you. Don't forget about our new Buy Me a Coffee. We will have that link for you below so that you can go do that and support us. And we do appreciate and thank you for that. We want to thank Andrea Olatunji for joining us again this week and talking about her books. We want to make sure we welcome her back when she has her next book out. And of course, as always, we hope that all of your writing dreams land well. Until next time, bye.
Bye. Thank you.